Daewon called Hee-rim and Ji-sung immediately after the second message appeared. They arrived before dawn, both looking tired and worried. Hee-rim read the message on the screen 3 times, her lips moving silently as she translated the ancient Korean. "The boundaries are failing," she said finally. "What boundaries? What were they guarding against?" "Maybe we should ask them," Daewon said. "Ask who?" "Whoever's behind the door. They're trying to communicate. Maybe we should listen." Ji-sung shook his head. "Your uncle's journal said never to answer, never to make contact. There was a reason for that warning." "My uncle also kept secrets," Daewon said. "He watched this door his whole life and never questioned why. I'm tired of watching. I want answers." Hee-rim pulled up a chair and opened her portable computer. "Before we do anything, you need to understand what I've learned. I've been researching the proto-human civilization. The ones who left that inscription. They called themselves the First Wave." She showed them images and documents on her screen. Ancient ruins found on Earth, structures on Mars, settlements on the moons of Jupiter. All of them abandoned, all of them predating modern human civilization by thousands of years. "The first wave was human," Hee-rim explained. "But they were different from us. More advanced in some ways, more primitive in others. They had faster-than-light travel before we did. They spread across dozens of star systems in just a few centuries. Then they disappeared. Modern humans evolved from the populations they left behind on Earth." "What happened to them?" Ji-sung asked. "No one knows. But there are theories. Some researchers think they destroyed themselves in a war. Others think they evolved into something else and left this part of space. But I found something in the classified archives. A report from the first survey teams that found these doors. They found something else too, bodies." She pulled up another image. Daewon felt his stomach turn. The photograph showed a skeleton, but it was wrong. The bones were human-shaped but too long, too thin. The skull was larger. The eye sockets positioned differently. "This is what the first wave became," Hee-rim said quietly. "They changed themselves, modified their bodies to survive in space, to live longer, to think differently. By the end, they weren't quite human anymore. At least not in the way we understand it. And they locked the shepherds away," Daewon said. "Why?" "That's what we need to find out. But I think the answer is in your uncle's journals." "May I see them?" Daewon brought her all the journals. Hee-rim read through them quickly, her eyes moving fast across the pages. She stopped at one entry and read it aloud. "My father told me the story his father told him. Long ago, when the first wave was spreading across the stars, they met others. Species that had been traveling space for much longer. These others said there were rules. Places humans should not go. Paths that must be maintained. Boundaries that protected everyone. The first wave refused to listen. They wanted freedom to go anywhere, to claim any world they found. So they made war against these others. They called them the shepherds because they tried to herd humanity into safe areas. The first wave won that war. They locked the shepherds away in prisons like this one, scattered across many worlds. Then the first wave disappeared, and we, their children, forgot why the doors were sealed. The room was silent except for the hum of the beacon equipment. They were trying to protect us," Daewon said. "The shepherds. They weren't trying to cage humanity. They were trying to keep us away from something dangerous. And the first wave was too proud to listen," Hee-rim added. "They saw any limitation as an insult to human ambition." Ji-sung stood up and walked to the window. Dawn was breaking over the ocean, painting the water gold and orange. If the shepherds were right, if there are dangerous places in space that should be avoided, then what happens now? "You said the boundaries are failing. What does that mean?" Before anyone could answer, alarms screamed through the lighthouse. Every screen in the beacon room lit up red. Daewon ran to the controls. The beacon was receiving multiple signals now, all from different directions, all from deep space, all sending the same coordinates he had seen before. "Something is coming through," he said. "Multiple somethings. All heading toward human space." Hee-rim's computer chimed. She checked it and her face went white. "I'm getting emergency broadcasts from the research network. There's been an incident at one of the other door sites. The colony on New Taiwan. Something came out of the space near their door. Something that isn't showing up correctly on scanners." She pulled up the emergency broadcast. A shaking video showed a research station near a chained door similar to the one below Daewon's lighthouse. But in the video, something was wrong with the space around the door. The air looked bent, twisted. Colors bled into each other in ways that hurt to watch. And through that twisted space, something was emerging. Something that Daewon's eyes couldn't quite understand. It had too many angles, too many surfaces. It moved in directions that shouldn't exist. The video cut to static. They lost contact with the station 3 hours ago. Hi, Rim said, her voice shaking. Nothing is responding. Not the researchers, not the automated systems, nothing. Ji-sung turned from the window. This is what the shepherds were guarding against. This is what comes through when the boundaries fail. Another alarm. This one came from Daewon's personal communication device. An official government broadcast. Mandatory evacuation orders for several coastal regions, including the area around the lighthouse. Military ships were being deployed. All civilians were ordered to leave immediately. They know, Hiram said. The government knows something is happening. The building shook. Not from knocking this time, but from something overhead. Daewon ran outside and looked up. Military aircraft were crossing the sky in formation, heading toward the lighthouse. They weren't evacuation ships. They were armed. A new voice came through the lighthouse communication. System, cold, official military. This is Colonel Tae Yang of the Colonial Defense Force. Lee, personnel at the lighthouse facility will evacuate immediately. This site is now under military jurisdiction. You have 10 minutes to comply. They're going to destroy the door, Ji-sung said. They're going to blow it open and kill whatever's inside. No, Daewon said. He was surprised by the strength in his own voice. The shepherds aren't the threat. They're trying to warn us. If the military destroys that door, they'll kill the only ones who know how to fix the boundaries. Hiram grabbed his arm. Daewon, we can't fight the military. We need to leave. You leave. Both of you. I'm staying. That's insane, Ji-sung said. They'll arrest you. Or worse. My family has watched this door for 7 generations. We took an oath even if we forgot why. I'm not abandoning that duty now. The military aircraft were landing. Daewon could see soldiers deploying, setting up equipment on the clifftop. They had maybe 5 minutes before the military reached the lighthouse. Rim made a decision. She pulled a small device from her equipment case and pressed it into Daewon's hand. This is a translator. It can interpret ancient languages, including proto-human script. If you're really going to talk to whatever is behind that door, you'll need this. I'm not leaving either, Ji-sung said. You're my oldest friend. I'm not letting you face this alone. Neither am I, Hiram added. This is the most important archaeological discovery in human history. I'm not running away. Daewon looked at them both. His throat felt tight. Thank you. Heavy boots sounded on the stairs. The military was entering the lighthouse. Daewon made his choice. He ran for the back exit, the one that led to a maintenance tunnel his uncle had shown him in old photographs. Ji-sung and Hiram followed. The tunnel was narrow and dark, but it led down through the cliff to a cave system below. They could hear soldiers shouting behind them, orders being barked. But the tunnel was too small for soldiers in full combat gear. They emerged in a sea cave. The tide was out. The beach where the door stood was visible through the cave mouth. But the military would be there soon. They had minutes at most. We need to remove the chains, Daewon said. Are you crazy? Ji-sung stared at him. We don't know what will happen. Yes, we do. The shepherds will be free, and maybe, just maybe, they can stop whatever is coming through those failing boundaries. Rim examined the locks on the chains. These aren't normal locks. They're not mechanical. They're responding to some kind of energy signature. She held up her scanner. But I think I can disrupt that signature. It will take a few minutes. Do it, Daewon said. Above them, on the cliff, they could hear the military setting up their equipment. Heavy machinery. Plasma charges, probably. Enough explosive power to tear through the chains and the door and anything behind it. Rim worked at the first lock. Her equipment hummed and sparked. The lock clicked open. The chain loosened slightly. 5 more to go, she said. A loudspeaker echoed across the beach. Colonel Tae Yang's voice amplified and commanding. This is your final warning. Step away from the door. We will open fire in 60 seconds. Rim's hands moved faster. Second lock. Third lock. The chains were falling away, coiling on the sand like metal serpents. 30 seconds. Fourth lock. Fifth lock. 15 seconds. Sixth lock. Only one remained. Rim's equipment sparked and died. The battery was drained. I can't open the last one, she said desperately. The thing that came through the tear in space was wrong in every way that mattered. Daewon watched it through his new senses as it materialized above the colony's orbital station. It looked like a shadow with teeth, like hunger given form. The station's defensive shields activated automatically, but the eater passed through them as if they were made of air. Metal crumpled. Hull plating dissolved. The station began to break apart, pulled into the creature's impossible geometry. "We have to go now," Day-One said. His body felt different, lighter somehow. The shepherd inside him showed him how. He thought about being at the station, about moving through space the way the shepherds did, and suddenly he was rising. Not flying exactly, but traveling along the invisible currents he could now see threading through everything. Hi-Rim and Jisung followed, their new forms adapting quickly. They moved like light, like thought, crossing the distance between the cliff and the orbital station in seconds. Colonel Taeyang shouted something behind them, but they were already gone. The station was dying. Day-One could see people inside, trapped in sections that were still intact. He could feel their fear radiating like heat. The eater was feeding on the station slowly, savoring its meal. It had no mind, no consciousness. Just endless appetite. "How do we fight this?" Jisung asked. His voice came through their merged connection, traveling through the paths between them. "We seal the tear," the shepherd inside Day-One answered. "Reality is broken here. We must repair it, but we need time." "Then I'll buy us time," Jisung said. He moved toward the eater, his form blazing with light. The creature sensed him and turned its attention. Good. That was what Jisung wanted. He wove between the station's broken sections, leading the eater away from the trapped colonists, keeping it focused on him instead of them. Day-One and Hi-Rim reached the tear. Up close, it looked like a wound in the fabric of space itself. Through it, Day-One could see the void beyond, the place where the eater had come from. A place without stars, without light, without hope, just hungry darkness that wanted to consume everything. "Show me how," Day-One said to the shepherd in his mind. The knowledge flowed through him. He reached out with hands that were still human but also something more. He touched the edges of the tear and began to pull them together. It was like trying to stitch flesh that didn't want to heal. The wound fought him, trying to stay open. From the other side, he could feel more eaters gathering, drawn by the breach. They wanted through. They wanted to feed. Hi-Rim worked beside him, her hands moving in patterns that created light. The light acted like thread, weaving through the tear, binding it closed. But they were working too slowly. The eater that had come through was growing stronger, feeding on the station's matter and energy. And Jisung was tiring. "I need help." Jisung's voice came through strained and desperate. "It's adapting. It's learning how I move." A plasma blast struck the eater from below. Colonel Taeyang had commandeered a military shuttle and brought it up to the station. His soldiers were firing every weapon they had. The blast did nothing to hurt the creature, but they distracted it, gave Jisung a chance to breathe. "Keep firing," Taeyang ordered his team. "Don't let that thing focus on the kid." More shuttles were arriving now. Word had spread across the colony. Every ship that could fly was coming up to help. Civilian vessels, cargo haulers, even a few mining rigs. They couldn't hurt the eater, but they could be loud. They could be distracting. They could be brave. Day-One felt something shift inside him. All these people, coming together to fight something they didn't understand, risking everything for each other. This was humanity's real strength, not the refusal to accept limits, but the willingness to stand together when it mattered most. "We can do this," he said to Hi-Rim. Together, they worked faster, their hands moving in sync. The tear was closing. Slowly, painfully, but closing. The eater sensed what was happening and abandoned its attack on Jisung. It rushed toward the tear, trying to keep it open, trying to let more of its kind through. Jisung intercepted it. He was exhausted, his light form flickering, but he wrapped himself around the creature and held on. "Close it," he shouted. "Close it now." Jisung, no, Day-One reached for his friend. "You're too close. If we seal it while you're there, then seal it," Jisung said. His voice was calm, certain. "Some things are worth the sacrifice. Close the door, Day-One. Save everyone else. There has to be another way. There isn't, and you know it. Close the tear. That's an order from your best friend." Day-One felt tears on his face, human tears, even though he was something more than human now. His hands moved, pulling the edges of reality together. Hi-Rim worked beside him, her own face wet with grief. The light threads she created wove tighter and tighter. The tear was almost closed. Jisung still held the eater, keeping it from breaking free. And then at the last moment, something unexpected happened. The shepherd still inside Jisung, the ancient being that had merged with him, did something Daewon had never seen before. It separated, pulled itself out of Jisung's body and pushed him back toward normal space while it stayed with the eater, holding it in place. Go, the shepherd's voice echoed through their connection. We held the boundaries once. We can hold them again, even if it costs us everything. Go, young one. Live for both of us. Jisung tumbled backward through space as the tear sealed shut. The shepherd and the eater vanished into the void beyond, and then there was nothing. Just intact space. Just stars and darkness and silence. Daewon caught Jisung as he fell. His friend was human again, fully human, gasping and shaking. I'm sorry, Jisung said. I'm sorry I couldn't hold on to it. You saved us all, Daewon said. The shepherd knew what it was doing. It chose this. They returned to the station. Emergency crews were already at work, sealing hull breaches, rescuing trapped colonists. Miraculously, no one had died. The station would need months of repairs, but it would survive. Colonel Taeyang met them in the station's command center. His uniform was scorched and his face was grim, but his eyes held new respect. I've sent my report to High Command. Full disclosure, what these entities are, what's at stake, and what needs to be done. I included my recommendation that we free all the remaining shepherds immediately and recruit volunteers for the Warden program. What did they say? Irem asked. They're arguing. Some want to destroy all the doors. Some want to study them. Some actually understand the danger and want to act. It's chaos up the chain of command. Then we go around them, Daewon said. We broadcast the truth to everyone. Show them what we face today. Let the people decide, and they did. Using the lighthouse beacon, Daewon transmitted everything. The history of the shepherds, the truth about the first wave, images of the eater, recordings of the battle. He showed humanity what was at stake and what needed to be done. The response was overwhelming. Thousands volunteered to become wardens within the first day, tens of thousands by the end of the week. People from every colony, every station, every background. They understood that this was not about giving up humanity. It was about expanding it, becoming something that could protect not just human worlds but all worlds. The government had no choice but to respond. Within a month, all 17 doors were opened. The surviving shepherds were freed. They were weak, so weak, but they were alive, and they were grateful. The Warden program became official. Daewon helped design the training, helped select candidates, helped manage the transformation process. Not everyone who volunteered could merge successfully with a shepherd. It required a certain flexibility of mind, a willingness to change, but enough succeeded. Hundreds became wardens in the first year, thousands in the second. They worked together, human and shepherd merged, to find and seal the tears in reality. It took 5 years of constant effort. 5 years of battles against things that leaked through from the void. 5 years of losses and victories and learning. But they succeeded. The boundaries were restored. The paths were maintained. And humanity learned a lesson that the first wave had refused to accept. Freedom did not mean the right to go anywhere without consequence. True freedom came from understanding the responsibility that came with power. Daewon returned to the lighthouse 10 years after he had first knocked on the door. It looked different now, cleaner, maintained by a rotation of new wardens who used it as a training facility. The beacon still sent its signal into space, but now it was a signal of hope instead of warning. A message that said humanity had learned, had grown, had chosen partnership over domination. He walked down to the beach where the door still stood. It remained open now, a symbol of trust, a reminder that some prisons should never have been built. High Rim joined him there. She was still a warden, still merged with her shepherd companion. She had become one of the leading teachers in the program, helping new recruits understand what they would become. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Giving up being fully human? Daewon thought about it. He could still remember being just human, just himself. But now he was more. He could see the beauty of the universe in ways he never could before, could protect people in ways that would have been impossible in his old life. No, he said. I don't regret it. The shepherd inside me, the one I carry, it showed me that there's more to existence than I ever imagined. Daewon didn't sleep for the rest of that night. He sat in the beacon room, staring at the coordinates on the screen. The message in ancient Korean had faded after a few minutes, but he had memorized every word. Brother, please. We are so cold. When dawn came, pale and gray through the ocean mist, he made himself coffee with shaking hands. The knocking had not repeated. The beacon had returned to its normal operations, sending out its old signal like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something had answered him. He sent a message to Ji-sung as soon as he thought his friend would be awake. The reply came back within an hour. Ji-sung could visit that afternoon. He worked for the Planetary Survey Office and had access to colony records. If anyone knew about the door, it would be him. Daewon spent the morning searching through his uncle's belongings. He found 3 more journals hidden in a locked drawer. The key had been taped to the back of a picture frame. Inside the journals were sketches of the door, measurements, notes written in hurried handwriting. One entry stood out. His uncle had written it 20 years ago. I went down at low tide today despite my better judgment. The chains are warm to the touch. Not hot, but warmer than they should be. Like something on the other side is breathing heat against the metal. I pressed my ear to the door. I heard nothing. But I felt something. A vibration so low it made my teeth ache. Something alive is behind that door. Something patient. Another entry dated 5 years ago. Father told me before he died that our family made a promise generations ago. We are watchers, not guardians, not jailers, just watchers. We keep the beacon running so someone out there knows this place is still occupied. We keep people away from the door. We never ever make contact. Father said the first of our line who came to this lighthouse found it already here. The door was already chained. The beacon was already built, though it looked different then. Older. We didn't build this place. We just inherited the duty. Daewon closed the journal and rubbed his eyes. His uncle had known more than he wrote. Had been afraid to write it down, maybe. And now Daewon had broken the one rule. He had knocked. Ji-sung arrived in the afternoon, his survey vehicle humming as it settled on the landing pad. He climbed out, a tall man with an easy smile that faded when he saw Daewon's face. You look terrible, Ji-sung said. Didn't sleep? Something happened, Daewon said. They sat in the lighthouse kitchen while Daewon told him everything. The door, the knock, the answer, the message. Ji-sung listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each detail. I need to see this door, Ji-sung said when Daewon finished. They waited for low tide, then descended the cliff path together. Ji-sung carried his survey equipment, scanners that could analyze composition and age. When they reached the beach and Ji-sung's light fell on the door, he stopped walking. Stars above, he whispered. I've seen this before. What do you mean? Not this door specifically, but doors like it. There are survey reports, classified reports. Ji-sung moved closer, running his scanner over the metal. 3 years ago, we found a similar door on the southern continent. Same metal, same chains, same locks. The colonial government sealed the site immediately, declared it off limits. We were told to delete our survey data and never speak about it. Did you delete the data? Ji-sung smiled slightly. I'm a surveyor. We never delete data. We just hide it really well. His scanner beeped. He looked at the readings and his smile disappeared. This metal isn't from any known source. The scanner can't identify its composition, and the age reading is impossible. It's showing more than 10,000 years old, but that can't be right. Humans have only been on this planet for 200 years. Someone else was here before us, Daewon said quietly. Maybe. Or something else. Ji-sung scanned the chains next. These are even older. The scanner is giving me error readings. It's like the metal exists slightly outside normal time. That doesn't make sense, but that's what the data shows. A sound made them both turn. Footsteps on the cliff path. Someone else was coming down. Daewon tensed, but Ji-sung held up a calming hand. I might have mentioned your message to someone at the Research Institute, Ji-sung admitted. Someone who specializes in pre-colonial archaeology. The woman who reached the beach was young, probably in her late 20s, wearing practical field clothes and carrying a heavy equipment case. She had sharp eyes that immediately fixed on the door. I'm Hi-Rim, she said, not bothering with formal greetings. I study old things, very old things, and this is the oldest thing I've ever seen. She set down her case and pulled out equipment that made Ji-sung's scanner look primitive. As she worked, she talked. There are 17 known doors like this across human-colonized space, she said. All different planets. All chained exactly like this one. All completely sealed. The doors were here before humans arrived. That's documented fact, though most of that documentation is classified. The government doesn't like people asking questions about who was here before us. Why not? Daewon asked. Because it challenges the narrative. Humans like to think we're exploring empty space, claiming virgin worlds. We don't like to think about the possibility that we're walking through someone else's ruins. Someone who came before. Someone who might come back. Her equipment beeped. She studied the readings for a long moment. This door has been here for approximately 11,000 years, give or take a century. The chains are even older, maybe 13,000 years. But here's the interesting part. She pointed to her screen. There's energy on the other side. Not a lot, but it's there. Something is drawing power from somewhere. Something is active behind this door. What kind of something? Jisung asked. I don't know, but I can tell you what the inscriptions say. Yerim moved to the side of the door frame where Daewon had noticed what looked like weathering. She brushed away centuries of mineral deposits, revealing symbols carved deep into the stone. This is written in proto-human script, a language that existed before modern humans developed space travel. Before we even left Earth's solar system. That's impossible, Daewon said. How could there be writing here from before humans came to space? That's the question that keeps me awake at night. Yerim took photographs of the symbols. There are theories, none of them comfortable, but I can translate some of this. It says, here lie the shepherds, bound by necessity, sealed by mercy, guarded by duty. They maintained the paths. They kept the boundaries. They refused our freedom, so we took theirs. Silence fell over the beach. Even the ocean seemed quieter. Who are the shepherds? Daewon asked. I don't know, but whoever wrote this, whoever chained this door, they were human, or something that became human, and they imprisoned someone for trying to stop them from spreading across the stars. Daewon thought about the message on the beacon. Brother, please. We are so cold. What if they weren't the enemy? He said slowly. What if whoever chained these doors made a mistake? Yerim looked at him sharply. What do you know? He told her about the knock, the answer, the message. Her face went pale. The doors are responding, she said. Stars and void, the doors are responding. Do you understand what this means? For 11,000 years, these doors have been silent. And now, because someone finally knocked, they're waking up. Is that bad? Jisung asked. I don't know, but I need to report this. The Research Institute needs to know. The government needs to know. No, Daewon said. The word came out harder than he intended. Not yet. Give me time to understand what's happening first. My family has been watching this door for generations. There's a reason for that. I need to know what that reason is before we bring the government into this. Yerim studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. 3 days, she said. I'll give you 3 days before I file my report. But if anything else happens, if there are more knocks, you contact me immediately. We're dealing with something ancient and powerful here, something that has been waiting for a very, very long time. That night at exactly 3:47 in the morning, the knocking came again. 3 massive impacts that shook the lighthouse to its foundation, and this time the message on the beacon screen was longer. Brother, the stars grew cold while we waited. We kept the boundaries. We maintained the paths. Your ancestors feared we would cage humanity, so they caged us instead. But now the paths are breaking. The boundaries are failing. What we guarded against is coming through, please, we are so cold. But worse things are now so close. The shepherds moved like thought made visible. Their light forms shifted and flowed, creating patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than Daewon's eyes could fully see. There were 3 of them that emerged from the door. 3 beings that had waited 11,000 years in darkness. The one that had spoken in Daewon's mind moved closer. Up close, he could see that its form was made of countless geometric shapes, all connected and moving in harmony. It reminded him of how atoms were supposed to look in old physics diagrams, but alive and aware. We are weak, the shepherd's voice said in his thoughts. 11,000 years without light, without purpose, without connection to the paths we maintained. We are shadows of what we were, but we will show you what is coming. You must understand. The shepherd touched Daewon's forehead with something that might have been a hand. Light flooded his vision. He saw space. Not the empty darkness humans thought it was, but a network of invisible currents and flows. Like rivers in the void, connecting stars and systems. The shepherds had maintained these paths, keeping them stable, making sure nothing dangerous flowed through them. But the paths were breaking. Torn and frayed, and through the tears something was leaking in, the eater of stars, he saw it now. Not a creature but a force, a hungry emptiness that consumed reality itself. It moved through the broken paths like poison through veins, reaching toward the systems where humans lived. Where any life lived, it had no thought, no mercy. Only endless hunger. This is what exists beyond the boundaries, the shepherd's voice explained. In the spaces between spaces. The first wave refused to believe such things existed. They thought the universe was theirs to claim. They did not understand that existence itself must be protected. We tried to teach them. They chose to imprison us instead. The vision faded. Daewon staggered backward, caught by Ji-sung's steady hands. He was gasping for air, his mind struggling to hold on to what he had seen. Stars above, Ji-sung whispered. I saw it too. We all saw it. Hyrim was on her knees in the sand, tears running down her face. It's real. It's all real. The shepherds were right. The first wave doomed us all. Above them, Colonel Tae-Yang's voice boomed across the beach. Unknown entities, you are in violation of Colonial Defense Protocol 7. Stand down or we will open fire. The shepherd turned its attention upward. For a moment, Daewon thought it might attack, but instead it simply spoke, its voice now echoing aloud so all could hear. We are not your enemy. We never were. We are the shepherds. We maintain the boundaries between safe space and the void. Your ancestors imprisoned us because we would not let them expand without limit. Now the boundaries you broke are failing, and what lies beyond them is coming through. Soldiers appeared on the cliff edge above, their weapons trained on the beach. Colonel Tae-Yang descended the path, his face hard and unreadable. Behind him came more soldiers, at least 20, all armed with plasma rifles. I don't care what you are, Tae-Yang said. You're an unknown threat that has been sealed for a reason. My orders are to neutralize this site. Your orders are wrong, Daewon said, stepping between the shepherd and the soldiers. They're trying to help us. Step aside, civilian. You're already facing charges for tampering with a restricted site. Then charge me. But listen first. Look at this. Daewon pulled up the beacon data on his portable device and showed it to the colonel. These are readings from 17 different star systems, all of them showing the same thing. Spatial anomalies, reality breaks. This started happening 3 days ago, right after the doors started responding. Something is coming through, and the only ones who know how to stop it are the shepherds. Tae-Yang looked at the data. His expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed. This intelligence has not been confirmed. It's confirmed now, Hiram said, standing up. I'm Dr. Hyrim from the Colonial Research Institute. I have clearance level 7. I can verify that similar phenomena have been reported at multiple door sites. The government knows this is happening. They're probably just not telling you everything. Tae-Young's jaw tightened. He tapped his communication device and spoke quietly to someone on the other end. Daewon couldn't hear the conversation, but he saw the colonel's face grow darker with each passing second. You're right, Tae-Yang said finally. There have been incidents. 3 research stations have gone dark. 2 colonies have reported strange sightings in orbit, and my superiors have been giving me incomplete information. He looked at the shepherd. Can you fix this? Can you stop what's coming? We can try, the shepherd replied. But we are only 3. There were once thousands of us, maintaining boundaries across this entire region of space. Most of our kind died in the prisons you built. The survivors are scattered behind 17 doors across your colonies. All of them must be freed. And even then, we may be too few and too weak. There must be another way, Ji-sung said. Can you teach us? Can humans learn to maintain these boundaries? The shepherd was quiet for a moment, its form pulsing with light. Humans created this problem. Perhaps humans can help solve it. But you would need to change. To merge with us. To become something new. Neither fully human nor fully shepherd. Wardens of the boundaries. You mean give up being human? Tae-Yang asked. Not give up, transform, expand. Your ancestors feared limitation. They wanted absolute freedom. But we offer something else. Partnership. The ability to travel the safe paths across the stars while protecting the boundaries that keep everyone safe. You would see space as we do. Understand the flows and currents. Detect the breaks before they become catastrophic. Daewon thought about it. His whole life had been spent on ships and stations, traveling through space but never really understanding it. The vision the shepherd had shown him revealed a universe far more complex and beautiful than he had imagined. And far more dangerous. I'll do it, he said. I'll become a warden. Daewon, no, Ji-sung grabbed his arm. You don't know what this will do to you. I know that something needs to be done. My family watched this door for generations. We were keeping a duty we didn't understand. Now I understand it, and I'm going to finish what they started. Hyrim stepped forward. I'll volunteer too. I've spent my life studying the past, Maybe it's time I helped build the future. And I won't let you both do this alone, Ji-sung said quietly. If you're going into the unknown, I'm coming with you. Tae-yang watched them, his expression unreadable. Then he spoke into his communication device again. Command, this is Colonel Tae-yang. I'm requesting permission to deviate from orders. The situation on site is not what we were briefed. I need authorization to make a tactical decision. The response came back, negative, orders stand. Neutralize the site. Tae-yang closed the channel. He looked at his soldiers, then at the shepherds, then at Daewon and his friends. I've been in the military for 23 years. I followed orders even when they seemed wrong. But I've also seen what happens when good people do nothing in the face of danger. He lowered his weapon. I'm officially disobeying a direct order. If you three are volunteering to become these wardens, then I'm volunteering as a witness. And if this works, I'll need to report the truth to people who might actually listen. The soldiers behind him shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a young corporal, also lowered her weapon. Then another. Within seconds, the entire squad had stood down. Thank you, the shepherd said. Your courage honors us, but we must move quickly. The transformation is not easy. And while we work, the eater grows closer. The shepherd that had been speaking moved toward Daewon. Two others approached Hiram and Ji-sung. We will merge our essence with yours. You will retain your identity, your memories, your humanity, but you will also gain our perception, our knowledge, our purpose. You will become bridges between two forms of existence. Will it hurt? Daewon asked. Yes, but you will survive. You are stronger than you know. Your species survived because you refused to accept limits. Now you will learn that true strength comes from understanding which limits exist for good reason. Daewon nodded. He was afraid, but he was also certain. This was right. This was why his family had been drawn to this place across generations. They had been waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to open the door and face what lay beyond. The shepherd touched him. Light poured into his body like liquid fire. He screamed, but the sound seemed distant. His nerves were burning. His cells were changing. His mind was expanding in directions he had never known existed. He could feel Ji-sung and Hiram going through the same transformation nearby. Their pain and his pain mixing together, and then he could see, really see. Space opened up around him like a vast ocean of invisible currents. He saw the paths the shepherds had maintained, saw how they connected everything, saw where they were broken and fraying. He saw the tears in reality, saw the darkness leaking through and in the distance. Moving closer with terrible patience, he saw the eater of stars, a hole in existence itself, consuming everything it touched, the transformation completed. Daewon fell to his knees, gasping, but he was alive. He was himself, and he was also something more. His body still looked human, but he could feel the shepherd's presence inside him, merged with his own consciousness. Two minds, one being. He looked at his hands. They glowed faintly with inner light. The transport shuttle left Daewon standing alone on the cliff edge, his single bag at his feet. The wind pulled at his jacket as the shuttle's engines faded into the gray sky. He watched it disappear beyond the clouds before turning to look at his inheritance. The lighthouse stood like a broken tooth against the horizon. White paint peeled from its walls in long strips, and rust bloomed across the metal railings that wrapped around its upper gallery. It was taller than he remembered from the old photographs his uncle had sent years ago. Much taller. The beacon itself sat dark and silent at the top, a massive glass eye that no longer blinked warnings to ships that no longer came. Daewon picked up his bag and walked the narrow path toward the structure. The path was made of old stone, cracked and overgrown with tough coastal grass. On both sides, the cliff dropped away into nothing. He could hear the ocean far below, crashing against rocks he couldn't see. The sound was constant and strange. He had lived his whole life on starships and space stations. The ocean was new to him. The lighthouse door hung crooked on its hinges. Daewon pushed it open and stepped inside. Dust covered everything. His footsteps left prints on the floor as he moved through the ground level. There was a small kitchen, a bedroom, and a room filled with equipment he recognized from his engineering days. Communication gear. Very old communication gear, but still functional by the look of the blinking lights. He climbed the spiral stairs to the beacon room at the top. The stairs creaked under his weight. The beacon itself was larger than he expected. A complex array of lenses and reflectors surrounding a core that pulsed with soft blue light. It was working. After all these years, it was still working. Daewon found the control panel and studied the display. The beacon was sending a signal out into deep space. The same signal, repeating every 12 hours. He checked the logs. It had been sending this signal for 200 years without stopping. His uncle had lived here for 40 years maintaining this beacon. Before that, his grandfather had done the same. Before that, others in his family line had kept the watch. But watch for what? Ships didn't come to this part of Hyundai Prime anymore. The colony had grown in other directions, leaving this remote coast empty and forgotten. Daewon pulled out his uncle's journal from his bag. The old man had left it for him along with the lighthouse deed. He sat down and began to read. The first entries were simple maintenance logs. Replaced power cell. Cleaned lenses. Repaired weather seal. But as he flipped through the pages, the entries changed. The signal must continue. They are listening. Keep the watch. Never go down at low tide. I saw the chains today. They hold strong. Thank the ones who came before. If you inherit this place, nephew, remember, never answer. Never knock. Just keep the beacon lit and stay away from the door. Daewon closed the journal. His hands felt cold despite the warmth of the beacon room. What door? He spent the rest of the afternoon making the lighthouse livable. He swept away dust and brought his few belongings up from his bag. He heated a simple meal on the old kitchen stove and ate while watching the sun sink toward the ocean horizon. The sky turned orange, then pink, then deep purple. Stars began to appear, more stars than he had ever seen from a planet's surface. When full darkness came, the beacon activated its visible light sequence. Bright white light swept across the ocean in steady rotations. Daewon watched it for a while, then decided to explore the cliff path before the light was completely gone. He took a handheld lamp and walked down the same stone path he had arrived on. But instead of going back toward the landing pad, he followed a smaller branch that led down the cliff face. The path was steep and narrow, cut directly into the rock. His lamp beam bounced with each step, casting wild shadows. The path ended at a small rocky beach, exposed now because the tide was out. Daewon stepped onto the wet sand and stones. The ocean was far back, leaving this temporary beach for a few hours. His lamp swept across the cliff base, illuminating tide pools and seaweed. Then the light caught something else. Metal. Daewon moved closer. Set into the cliff face, perfectly smooth and rectangular, was a door. It was made of metal that didn't reflect his light properly, as if it absorbed the beam and gave back something darker. The door was 3 times his height and twice as wide. No handles. No visible hinges. No markings except for deep grooves worn into its surface by centuries of weather. And chains. Heavy chains wrapped around the entire door, crossing and recrossing in complex patterns. The chains were made of metal he didn't recognize. They looked old but showed no rust. Each link was as thick as his arm. Massive locks, 7 of them, held the chains in place at key points. The locks bore no manufacturer marks, no serial numbers, no writing of any kind. Daewon stood before the door, his lamp shaking slightly in his hand. The door didn't match the cliff. The rock around it looked natural, but the door frame was cut with perfect precision. Someone had put this here long ago. Someone had chained it shut and locked it tight. He thought about his uncle's warning. Never knock. But standing here looking at this impossible thing, Daewon felt a pull he couldn't explain. His uncle had kept secrets. His family had kept secrets. And he was tired of secrets. He stepped forward and raised his hand. Before he could think about it too much, before common sense could stop him, he knocked on the door with his knuckles. The sound was dull and flat, swallowed by the metal. He knocked once, firmly. Nothing happened. The ocean continued its distant roar. The wind continued its cold pull. The chains didn't move. Daewon waited for a full minute, then felt foolish. What had he expected? This was just an old sealed door, probably left over from early colony construction. The chains were probably just a safety measure for something structural. He turned and climbed back up the cliff path. By the time he reached the lighthouse, he had convinced himself the door meant nothing. He was tired from travel. Tomorrow he would contact Ji-sung, his old friend who worked as a surveyor in the nearest settlement. Ji-sung would know about the door. Ji-sung always knew the local history. Daewon prepared for sleep in the small bedroom. The beacon's light swept through the window in regular intervals, painting the walls with moving brightness. He lay down and closed his eyes, listening to the ocean and the wind and the creak of the old building. He fell asleep thinking about chains. The sound woke him at exactly 3:47 in the morning. He knew the time because he checked his wrist display immediately, his heart already pounding. 3 knocks. Massive. Thunderous. Coming from below. The knocks were so loud and so deep that he felt them through the lighthouse foundation. The building shook slightly with each impact. Something was hitting the door from the other side. Something was knocking back. Daewon sat up in bed, his breath coming fast. The knocks echoed away into silence. Then the beacon's control system started screaming alarms. He ran up the spiral stairs to the beacon room. Every display was lit red. Every monitor showed error messages. But one screen showed something different. Coordinates. A location in deep space far beyond any charted system. The beacon was receiving a new signal. A signal it had never received before. And as Daewon watched, a message appeared on the screen in text he could barely believe he was reading. It was written in ancient Korean, a form of the language not used for 500 years. But Daewon could read it, just barely. The message was simple and terrible. "Brother, please, we are so cold.